What's up YouTube, it's JackalGoldKick. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what if Eazy-E signed Hopsin to Ruthless Records. So this is a fun what if thing that I wanted to talk about in a video, because this was something I was thinking about. This is one of the things I was thinking about, like if Eazy-E didn't die and he was still alive and ran Ruthless Records, and Hopsin actually did sign to Ruthless Records. This is a what if that I thought about, and I want to talk about it on video. Now, of course, as we know, Hopsin did sign to Ruthless Records around 2008 or somewhere around there, but it went horribly bad. His career went nowhere. It was bad business. It just sucked. And Tamika Wright was not a good music manager. She's even had issues with MC Ren, I heard. So it didn't really go well with Hopsin at Ruthless Records. But what if Eazy-E was still alive, still in charge of Ruthless Records, and he was the one managing Hopsin instead of Tamika Wright? That's what we're going to talk about in this what if video. Now, I won't go into full details of like the whole Tamika Wright Hopsin shit, because that'll take too long. So if you want to know the full story of that and how all that happened, there's a video by Kadeem the King called Hopsin versus Tamika Wright. I'm going to link that in the description. Go watch that video if you want to know the full story behind Hopsin and Ruthless Records and how all that shit went wrong, if you want to learn about that. But yeah, let's get to this video. So what if Eazy-E signed Hopsin to Ruthless Records? Let's discuss this. So, Eazy-E, if he was still alive, and he wasn't dead, he was the founder of Ruthless Records, and he actually signed Hopsin, you know, if things went the same way they did, where Hopsin would have eventually signed to Ruthless Records in the late 2000s, and let's say Eazy-E was still alive, and he didn't die, I think Hopsin's career would have turned out a lot different and probably a lot better for him in the long run. Because the thing about Eazy-E is he's a good music manager. You know, he worked with Jerry Heller. He had a lot of connections, and of course he put Bone Thugs and Harmony on. You know, signed them, managed them well. He was good at managing artists. He was good at running Ruthless Records. Eazy-E knew how to do it. His wife didn't, but Eazy-E knew how to do it. So if Eazy-E was still alive and he wasn't dead and he was still running Ruthless Records all the way into the late 2000s, and the same thing happened where Hopsin actually signed to Ruthless Records, well, I think that would have been very interesting, especially since Hopsin and Eazy-E, they're both from California, so they're California rappers, so you already have a similarity there. And then I think Hopsin's career would have turned out much better than it did compared to Tamika Wright, because Eazy-E actually knows how to manage his artists. He knows how to run Ruthless Records. So if Eazy-E was still alive and he actually did sign Hopsin to Ruthless Records, we probably would have had a different thing happen, a different career. What would probably happen is if Eazy-E would have signed Hopsin to Ruthless Records, if he was still alive, Hopsin probably would have blew up and got famous right from the start. Probably would have had singles, music videos, things of that nature. You probably would have had some features from Eazy-E, some features from people that Eazy-E know, like BG Knockout, maybe some production from certain artists that Eazy-E knows about. I don't know if you would still have Gazing at the Moonlight. It would either be that album, the same one we got, or it would be something completely different. Either way, I think you would have had a different project, and Hopsin would have blew up from the start, because Eazy-E, like I said, he's good at managing his artists. He took care of Bone Thugs and Harmony really well and knows how to run Ruthless Records. So if Hopsin would have signed to Ruthless Records and Eazy-E was actually still alive and the founder, Hopsin would have blew up from the start, had a lot of success. Eazy-E would have knew what to do with him. And another part that I think is fun to talk about that would have been really cool is before Eazy-E died, he was going to squash beef or make amends with NWA and Dr. Dre. They were all going to come back together, but sadly Eazy-E did die, which sucks. But they were supposed to regroup together. So if Eazy-E did live, that would have happened. And at that time, or at this time, since we're talking around the 2008 time when Hopsin signed to Ruthless Records, if Eazy-E was still alive, by now he probably would have been cool with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and Aftermath and all that. So here's another thing that I think would be really fun to think about and interesting to talk about. You would have had involvement from Aftermath and Dr. Dre and Eminem with Hopsin on his first debut album. Because think about this. Eazy-E, at that time, because of the NWA thing I talked about, he would have been good friends with Dr. Dre. They probably would have been cool with each other. They probably would have been doing business and music together. And what would have happened, and Eazy would have been like, look, you got that artist you signed, Eminem. I got an artist I signed named Hopsin. He's similar to M. Why don't we get them two together? Why don't we do some business together? So not only would you have the backing of Eazy-E, features from him on Hopsin's album, whatever it would be, whether it be Gazing at the Moonlight or a new album, and whoever else Eazy-E knows, whatever production he can get together. You could have some, you know, features from Eazy-E, some gangsta rap type songs. But you would also have affiliation from Aftermath. You probably would have had a Hopsin and Eminem song around 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And that would have been really interesting, because that's when Hopsin was in his prime, and that's when Eminem was in his prime, his second prime, around the Relapse era. Of course, 2008, he was, you know, trying to quit his addiction. But around 08, 09, Eminem was like in his second prime, because I feel like he had a second prime. So you would have had affiliation and collaborations from Aftermath. So you could have had Eazy-E talking to Dre like, look, I got this artist named Hopsin. He's really dope. He's from California. He's similar to that guy you call, he's similar to that artist you got, that you signed, called Eminem. So why don't you produce some beats for Hopsin? So you would have had some Dr. Dre beats on the first album, maybe a feature from Dr. Dre. You would have had maybe some features from G-Unit, some features from 50 Cent, people like that were on Shady Records at the time, maybe some features and affiliations from D12. And you would have also had features from Eminem, because remember, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Eazy-E, Hopsin. There's some similarities there. Eazy-E's a music manager, so is Dre. Eminem, you know, the style he has, Hopsin has a similar style to him. Eazy-E's good friends with Dre. I think it would make total sense. So you probably would have had some collaborations with Eminem. You would have had Eminem on the album working with Hopsin, and his career would have blew up right from the start, you know. And as for the rest of his career, it probably would have turned out much different. I don't know if we would have had the same albums like Raw and Knock Madness and all that stuff. In terms of like people that Hopsin worked with, Swizz would probably benefit from it, because I think he knew Swizz at the time. Yeah, he did. He knew Swizz for a while, so he probably would have had Swizz involved. Swizz probably would have had a better career. Maybe he would have had an album, because he don't even do albums. So you would have had some stuff with Swizz, but like Jared Benton, Dizzy Wright, all those people, they probably wouldn't be involved in this, because, well, this is a completely different what if, and, you know, I don't even know if those artists would have been found in this alternate reality I'm talking about, this fun thing. So after the first album, after Eazy-E signs Hopsin, you know, and he appears on his album, he gets his people on there, he gets Dr. Dre beats on there, Dr. Dre features on there, gets him to work with Eminem, some music videos, some singles, some promotion, really pushing Hopsin. Hopsin would have been very successful. He would have blew the fuck up. He would have been huge. Because like I said, Eazy-E knows what he's doing. He's a good music manager, and he would have took good care of Hopsin. And also because, you know, Eazy-E, he's a businessman. You know, he worked with Jerry Heller. Jerry Heller, he probably could have still been involved. Maybe he could have helped out with Hopsin too. But Eazy-E's a good businessman, because like I said, you know, Bone Thugs and Harmony and Ruthless Records. And, you know, he would probably look at Dr. Dre like, all right, he signed this guy named Eminem, and he's doing really well with it. Eminem's got this crazy style and this and that. He would have been like, I see the same thing in Hopsin. I'm going to sign Hopsin, and he's going to be kind of like my artist, right? And like I said, I just think there would be so much cool shit there and so much success. I think after the first album, I don't know what would happen. You probably would have more albums from Hopsin. You would have more albums from Hopsin, more collaborations with Eazy-E, NWA, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Dr. Dre beats, 50 Cent features, maybe even Hopsin appearing on people's albums because of the Eazy-E affiliation. You could have had Eazy-E could have been doing albums and Hopsin being on there. You could have had Hopsin showing up on Eminem albums like Relapse and Recovery. You could have had Hopsin showing up on Dr. Dre albums, you know, or whatever Swizz could have done. Swizz could have dropped the album, you know, with this Eazy-E affiliation. Same thing for him. Eazy-E features, production, and beats from people that Eazy-E knows. Some features from Dr. Dre, some beats from Dr. Dre. It would have been very interesting. And in terms of other albums, like I can't think of the names because this never happened. That's why this is a what if. But, you know, Hopsin probably would have dropped a bunch of albums after the first album because he would, like I said, I think he would have been very successful and he would have blew up right from the start because Eazy-E is good at what he does. He's a good rapper and he's a good music manager, you know, and he knew how to run Ruthless Records. So Hopsin would have been very successful from the start. So after that, you probably would have had Hopsin, you know, trying to put Swizz on, working with Aftermath and Shady Records, working with people that Eazy-E knew. You also probably would have had Hopsin, like I said, Hopsin showing up on Eazy-E's albums. You also probably would have had some, you know, Eminem features and Dr. Dre features and G-Unit and 50 Cent features on Hopsin, on Eazy-E's album with Hopsin as well and Swizz. And, you know, I think Hopsin would have just dropped a bunch of albums after that and would have had a big career. He would have basically been a mainstream rapper, you know? He would have been a mainstream rapper. He would be huge. He would just drop tons of albums. Being on Ruthless Records, he would just be huge, and he would be big in the mainstream, you know? And it would just be interesting to see Eazy-E and Hopsin working together, being associated, both being from California, the West Coast. And I think it would have been very cool, and I think it would have been such an interesting thing in hip-hop. And I wish it did happen, but sadly it didn't happen because Eazy-E died, unfortunately, which sucks. You know, because he had a distinct voice as a rapper. He was a part of NWA. They put gangster rap on. And it's just, it's a tragedy what happened to Eazy-E. You know, it sucks when people in rap have to die. So, you know, rest in peace to Eazy-E. You know, my condolences go to his family and people affected by his loss. You know, it sucks that Eazy-E died, you know, because this is one of the things that could have happened if Eazy-E was still alive. And I just thought it would have been a fun what-if video to talk about, you know. Because as we know, in reality, Hopsin's career, he's an independent artist. He got screwed over by Ruthless Records. He did a few albums here and there. Not a few albums, but he did albums. And he had a decent career. But I just think this was a cool what if to talk about. So you let me know what you think about this topic. What you think would have happened if Eazy-E lived. And he was the one to manage Hopsin and control Ruthless Records and help out Hopsin rather than it being Tamika Wright. I think it would have turned out really well. Hopsin would have had a very successful career, tons of albums, bunch of help for Swizz. You would have had Dr. Dre, Eminem, G-Unit, people that NWA knew, all these people coming together, collaborating with Hopsin, working on his albums, Hopsin working with them. You would have had probably joint projects, maybe a Hopsin and Eminem project with Eazy-E and Dr. Dre on it. Maybe you would have had some swapped roles. Maybe Eazy and M would have did a project, and then Dre and Hop would have did a project. Shit like that. You could have had a lot of cross collabs and affiliations together. Aftermath and Ruthless Records could have done so much stuff together, you know. And then you think about some of the other stuff, like Eazy-E. You know, he would have did a lot. Like I said, he probably would have worked with like G-Unit and 50 Cent, things like that. But that's really all I got to say in this video. Just a fun topic I wanted to talk about. Because this was something I was thinking about, and I was like, I really want to make a video about this. So yeah, that's really all I got to say in this video. Peace.